there are two ways of teaching. One is like dogmatic and another is conflict-based. So the dogmatic method just states things are such, but the conflict-based method states people A say things are such and people B say things are such. Greetings, this is Eugene the Philosopher, the greatest living philosopher after the unfortunate passing of Quentin Robert de Nameland, who has been the greatest living philosopher before me. In this video I want to talk about a specific method of learning that I have actually invented, or at least I've uncovered some time ago actually, that I quite like to use myself. Now, so for these reasons, it's going to be quite personal, this video. However, I think it may help you, at least, well, you may try it out, maybe it will help you. Perhaps this is not always applicable, like I did not, try to apply it to too many things, actually, like I'm a scientist, I'm a philosopher, you know, so maybe it's not applicable everywhere, but at least I'm pretty sure it's applicable in many areas. In many things you may want to learn in your own life, whatever it is, okay? But yeah, it should be applicable in at least many cases. So what's the problem with learning? Well, learning is work, right? And as Ludwig von Mises brilliantly stated, work has negative value. So people would prefer not to work. And when I'm talking about Mises, I'm referring to his book Human Action, of course, which is the basis of the Austrian economic school, if you want to know about it some more. But regardless, so you need really strong incentives for learning, right? Because it has negative value. Like you need some external motivation to do it, because just like any work, it requires commitment, it requires like effort, it requires time, it requires energy, and it's pretty hard to do if there's no emotional investment into it, right? So now the question kind of shifts from how do we learn most efficiently to how do we become emotionally invested into what we're trying to learn, okay? This is the question we're asking now. And this is my solution in a nutshell, so hear me out. I think to become emotionally invested into whatever you're trying to learn, you have to find a conflict and explore the situation through it. So you don't just learn the thing A, whatever the thing A might be in your area that you're interested in, that you're trying to learn, but rather, before even learning about the thing A, you have to find whether there is a thing B which contradicts the thing A. So a very simple example would be from the realm of science. If there is a scientific theory, okay, which you want to learn about, maybe it would be fruitful for you to learn about whether at least alternative theories exist in the first place, okay? And once you've established they do, so you have at least 2 points, right? You may learn both of those things through their opposition. So this is my idea in a nutshell, is to introduce conflict into whatever you're learning, because that's how you will become emotionally invested into it, because, you know, what is like the most sort of general thing that we have in our culture that is based on conflict? It's drama, right? It's some sort of like a theatrical or whatever type of event, or not even an event, like a medium, you know, like a cultural medium. And if you think about it, like not only is any drama is based on conflict, any story is based on conflict, right? Something happens, there is some competition, there is some conflict, etc., etc., etc. And this is the storytelling is the most natural way of consuming information for humans, period, right? Like, if you want to know more details, watch my video, Nature of Knowledge. I'll link it in the description. So yeah, the dramatization of your learning process, in the sense that you perceive it as a story being told, right? About the conflict of two theories, competing, right? It's much more fruitful in my opinion. It's much more easy to grasp because it's much more natural, okay? There's a Montagues and Capulets, you know, there's not just, you're not just looking into a genealogic tree of one of these families, right? You're looking at a conflict and you're involved in it. Like you want to know what happens next, you know? So for example, if you learn that there are two competing theories, and you tend to kind of prefer one of them more because, I don't know, they have a more charismatic speaker talking about them, right? So you would be more invested, like you would want to get these, you know, like talking points to fight the people who are preferring the other theory, for example. Again, take a look at the modern, like, alternative science internet. Like, it's full of this sort of incentive for learning, but at least people are learning, all right? Like, it's good. It's better than if they wouldn't be interested in this area in the first place. At least that would be my thought. Okay, so yeah. So we introduce conflict. By introduce, I don't mean we like manufacture it. I mean, it's already there. It's just maybe that you weren't even aware that it was there, you know? You just want to learn one method of programming or something, and you are not aware of any other methods of programming, but maybe they exist. And maybe, like, it would be fruitful for you to know about this. And maybe through this opposition of one method and another method, you would learn both of them actually simultaneously much better, at least much faster, because you would be interested in it more than otherwise. Okay, this is kind of the idea. You know that Homer didn't talk about Achaeans. Homer didn't talk about Trojans. Homer talked about the war between Achaeans and Trojans, right? Like, this is the classic example of a story. It's based on a conflict, right? And through this lens, you might learn about both Achaeans and Trojans, right? You might learn that Achaeans were supported by Athena. They had this and this and this. And the Trojans were supported by Ares. They had this and this and this. And blah, 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 and blah, blah, blah. And everything's cool, right? Because it's very natural. The drama, the story, the conflict, right? That's how we learn. That's how we tell stories. So paradoxically, it looks like it is actually easier to understand two things through their opposition rather than to understand just one thing taken alone, right? Like, it looks completely unintuitive, right? Because supposedly you need to learn 2 times more things, but it's actually the reverse. Like, our mind, our storytelling, is kind of based on this conflict, based on this opposition, type of reasoning. So with just one thing, we have no baseline, no sort of pivot point, you know, this sort of, nothing to stand on in Archimedes' sense, you know, like, give me a pivot point and I'll turn the earth. Watch my video, Archimedes' Lever of Speculation, by the way, even though it's completely unrelated to what we're talking about here. Nevertheless, also, again, I'm kind of trying to give you more justification for this method that I just gave you. Why is it hard to learn things in general? Well, because they are still, you know, like, again, if you just want to learn thing A, like, it's still, there's nothing moving. Only through the introduction of this opposition, like, suddenly things start moving again. The story starts to unfold, you know. So intellectually, I would claim we can't actually perceive still things, period. And still, I mean, it's a metaphor, okay? So we have this sort of frog vision or whatever, you know, there's this myth that frogs cannot see, like, still objects, right? Only when a fly starts to fly, then the frog gets it with its tongue, right? Or whatever. I mean, it's a myth, probably. But nevertheless, we do have this sort of frog vision regarding ideas, regarding theories, regarding intellectual concepts, regarding even, like, aesthetic concepts or whatever. This would be my claim, all right? And we need things to move because, again, still things on their own, they are incredibly frustrating. They're annoyingly boring. That would be my claim, all right? And learning shouldn't be boring unless you're a masochist of some sort, okay? Learning should be fun. Learning should be natural. And what is natural? Storytelling. What is storytelling based on? Conflict. You need to introduce some sort of conflict into your learning. All right, that way or another. And what I propose is to introduce it right into the material. Like, if there is a theory A, like, actually Nietzsche claimed, like, if there's one party that everyone hates, like, absolutely hates, there would absolutely 100% of cases be the other party which like, they would not hate these guys, basically, okay? If everybody hates you, that's just not correct. Like, at least somebody loves you, okay? So, yeah, like, regardless of how good any sort of theory is, there always would be a contradicting theory, okay? And what I propose is to learn both through their opposition, because it's easier than to learn any of them isolated. It's kind of like a parallel, actually, I just thought about it. It's like a parallel link of conductors. parallel link of resistors, all right, which always has less resistance than any of them separately, which is kind of counterintuitive as well. Here we have something like this too. All right, so also another attempt at justifying my idea. You can't really see things without a point of view, all right? An alternative opinion gives you a point of view to observe the first opinion. So in order to even look at a theory A, you have to have a theory B, all right? Of some sort at least. This contrast, it helps to see things, you know? This yin and yang, like what is yin and yang if it's only a single color? It's nothing, you can't see anything, right? But if you make it the opposite, you can see it very clearly, right? And that's how you learn about both of them, right? Sort of. So if it's the same color, it's unintelligible or imperceptible in the first place. And again, here I want to share a bit more personal things. So maybe it's just me, but like I have a heavily kinesthetic perception. So in case you don't understand what it means like I perceive pretty much everything really through the lens of notions and ideas like pressure, like velocity, like mass, like some sort of forces, like, you know, like geometry, like this sort of stuff. So I always kind of semi-intuitively visualize everything in these sort of concepts. So for me, it's absolutely crucial to have some sort of conflict, you know, because again, I just don't feel the thing without it, you know, I just can't perceive it in my mind's eye, so to speak. I need like one mass to be pressuring another mass. I need something to go somewhere, something to pressure something, you know, these sort of notions. So maybe you're not like that. Maybe you're some sort of more like an audible person, more like a visual person. I don't know. But these things always helped me a lot, and that's why, again, well, this is my advice, right? This is my method. Maybe somebody else with other perceptive tendencies would propose you another method. Well, this is mine. Find a conflict, perceive the situation through this conflict, okay? If you want to study a theory, find a conflicting theory and study both of them through this opposition of these theories, all right? Plus, again, I'm a researcher and I'm a philosopher also, as you know, so I want to have as many opinions as possible. Like when I'm working with a theory, I want to have the broadest possible picture, all right? Like I want to know if there is legit criticism of this theory, because if there is, well, I would like to know about it. You know, what are the limits of this theory? Like I've had a video quite a while ago, maybe 3 years ago or something like that, which was called, I actually don't remember how it was called. It was something about beyond the border, I think, which is, again, so it was about like the limits of applicability of physical theories, which basically meant you cannot use a theory beyond its limits, all right? I'll link it in the description. So the examples I gave there was like, can you even use notions like density, for example, for point-like objects? Can you actually use the notions of like a curvature of space-time, for example, when it becomes infinite, like in black holes, right? Can you interpret all these artifacts as legit physical entities, or you should just dump the theory altogether in this area where it clearly doesn't work, right? And my opinion is you should, all right? Anyways, let's return to the topic of this video. So I have another personal anecdote to share, like how I used this method of mine, even though it wasn't conceptualized by me back then as I give it to you right now, reflecting upon it. But even back then, it kind of worked really fine. So since I was well, not really a child, like earlier in my youth, I was very interested in space. Again, about planets, the stars, all kinds of stuff like this, pretty much like any other kid would be, I assume. But I've learned, like I've read millions of books, like it was before the internet, at least here in Belarus. So I've read a million of books, and I kind of like had the idea that space is kind of boring, you know, nothing is happening there. Like stuff just moves according to gravity, and that's it, period. But then, like 10 plus years ago, I've learned about this alternative idea of electric universe, which says that roughly, like if you oppose the mainstream, even though I hate the term again, against the electric universe, so one would say the main force in space is gravity, and the electric universe says no, the main force is electricity. And that reinvigorated my interest in space so much, you wouldn't believe it. Like, I basically started relearning everything, but from this electrical lens. And it was so fascinating. I've learned so much new stuff. Like, it's actually crazy, alright? So, and I've learned about both like the mainstream views much better because of this, and about the alternative views as well. And so, yeah, there you go. If I had learned about this sort of opposition, if I knew when I was like 11 years old, when I was reading these books and encyclopedias, that there is a conflicting theory which says, no, everything is electric, you know, blah, 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 like regardless of whether this is true or not, it would be much more interesting for me to learn, you know. There's actually like some sort of serious debate going on in scientific community. Let's figure it out. Let's learn more about it, okay? That would be much more cool. But sadly, I only learned about this like when I was, like 24 maybe. So yeah. But luckily, I still had, you know, mental and physical, pun intended, energy to learn about this new thing and relearn the old things as well. But hopefully you can see through this example what I mean, alright? Yeah. Of course, as I've already mentioned, this conflict would necessarily mean that there would be a big degree of oversimplification, because again, both sides would start strawmanning each other, you know. Again, when you're learning, simplification is good, isn't it? All right. So yeah, and it also simultaneously, right off the bat, provides you at least the idea or understanding that there is multiplicity of opinions, right? Just as I keep saying that physics does not study the world, it studies the models of the world, right? So you have to get used to this notion that this model, whatever it is that you're studying, is just a model, and it's one of the models, right? So there is this multiplicity of opinions, which also lets you explore your own values and like accentuate your own personality, because it's a matter of choice which model you prefer, right? And it directly is a direct expression of yourself, if you wish. Like, if you don't want to express yourself through role-playing terms like genders, you know, you you might as well choose a theory that you follow and that you prefer, because again, it's just like taste in music, it's just like taste in food or in anything else. Taste in scientific theories or philosophical systems is another big part of a person's personality. Forgive me for this tautology. And it not only works for learning, by the way, like we've talked about learning a lot. I mean, this video is mostly about learning, but it's also about teaching. I mean, this method of mine is applicable to teaching as well, I think. Or at least showing your own opinion, showing your own theory, right? On these rails of self-expression, right? Like, for example, like, French physiocrats, they've actually invented their own opponents, if you know what I mean. So, you know, in order to like demonstrate their own idea, which was laissez-faire capitalism, right? Like, get the hell away from me type of capitalism. So big freedom, free market, basically. So they've had to invent their own opposition, which they called mercantilists, right? There were no collective of people who called themselves mercantilists before that. Mercantilists would probably I don't know how to stress this in English, sorry. So, yeah, so physiocrats said, there are mercantilists who think this and this and this, and we physiocrats think the opposite, alright? And then the Scottish guy, Adam Smith, have actually listened to what physiocrats said and published his book, which everybody thinks now that he is the proponent of the free market, whereas it was French physiocrats, actually. Like, he literally took every good idea that Adam Smith has, he took from French physiocrats, but he also added the shitty ideas of his own, unfortunately. But that's a separate story. So, yeah. Or you may think about, sort of this modern, social media culture trend of self-introduction through conflict, you know, the YouTube drama type of stuff. When, for example, unknown bloggers try to hype themselves up by attacking a famous blogger, right? Or maybe a famous person like Elon Musk or whatever, you know, there is a channel called Adam something, the author is some sort of like basically a commie, you know, a turbo socialist, and he became famous. Like his channel blew up literally in front of my eyes when he started criticizing Musk. Like he made like 5 videos like criticizing Elon Musk with his stupid ideas about this Hyperloop or whatever it's called, like this complete degeneracy. But he like blew up, and now he has like I don't know, 1 million subs or something. So yeah, absolutely it works. Okay, and that's just one example. There are many others. Okay. So it has literally the same dynamics of drama/conflict, you know, and it's entertaining, it's captivating, right? So yeah, Stendhal, you know, the French writer, he actually said that the best way to introduce yourself into the public, you know, into the court, if you wish, is through a duel. Like you have to challenge someone, and then through the opposition with them, everybody would learn about you, right? So to a degree, this is what I did with my video about Ben Davidson. I mean, you might as well watch it if you wish. But which has been the most successful video on my channel for a while, actually. But right now it's like number 4, I think. There's at least 2 videos much more successful in terms of views at the very least than this one. But still, it kind of worked, right? So yeah. So again, the same method of conflict, of opposition, may allow you to just introduce your own idea in a more sort of understandable way, all right? This is what I'm talking about here. So yeah, to conclude, in general, you may say that there are 2 ways of teaching. One is like dogmatic and another is conflict-based. So the dogmatic method just states things are such, but the conflict-based method states people A say things are such and people B say things are such, right? Also, did you see what I did there? Like I used my conflict-based method to describe the 2 ways of teaching, one of which is a conflict-based method, huh? So I contrasted the dogmatic way and the conflict-based way itself through the lens of the conflict way-based method. That's way too many words, but yeah, on some level it makes some sense, I promise. Thank you for watching. The eons are closing. If you wish to support me, please consider joining my Patreon. That is patreon.com/philosopher. See the link in the description. Or if you have a scientific theory of your own and you'd like my help in developing it, please join my alternative science coaching program, also available through Patreon.